The different electronic means of financial transfers outside the banking system. You've got new so you've got to completely be on your toes, being aware, and if we're not getting, because we'll get good indications well in advance of 2028, 29, whether we get about to get off the grey list. Hopefully we'll get those indications, and hopefully then you're not seeing officials and everyone starting to relax, because then we won't get off. But if you then see some complacency and the threat that we're going to be in there for another term, that would be a worry. You're getting new financial institutions getting approved, so the existing institutions have really had to go through a lot of enhancement of their standards. Some of them were really deficient and really had to build up. But you've got some of the new banks. Some of them, I think, are doing pretty well and meeting standards. Some of them are going to have to work hard, because the international correspondent banks will be really wanting to vet them. So we have to be careful we don't set up new financial institutions that look too close with some state-owned enterprises and some politicians and look a little bit iffy. That won't be a good look, not just for those institutions, but for PNG as a whole. So I think we hopefully will see some benefits early on where a greater transparency comes, together with the rolling out of the IFMS within the government financial system, which should be more transparent, and the Auditor General's reports are becoming a little bit more up to date, because they've been years out of date. We hosted that open budget survey, and I got a detailed correspondence from the Deputy Auditor General on their challenges, but where they are trying to bring them and do more spot audits, including on DDAs, but also of some state-owned enterprises. So we'll get some indications. We need to show our commitment. The Auditor General is totally inadequately funded. It got a boost in its funding in 2026, which was a good sign. It's still totally inadequately funded, and we need to put more pressure on all the government institutions, especially the finance department, to get the government finances up to date, including the overall audit of the public accounts ready. So those are all going to be signs. So if you see institutions being inadequately funded or not getting it, the pressure to actually implement. As I say, we've got EITI as an important tool, but we need to see the contract transparency actually rolled out. We need to see more details of the subnational financing rolled out, and state-owned enterprises are a weak spot. We need to see stronger transparency with them. That's. Thanks. Dr. Salon.
Question as to the banking industry as it is now is with fiat currencies that are physical. Fiat currencies, that banks are in that space of dealing with currencies that are physical. I think you made an allusion to there's this technology currency, which is in the cryptocurrency space. And how are banks who are in fiat currency dealing with that? How are they prepared from your perspective to regulate that cryptocurrencies and money laundering, maybe utilizing the cryptocurrencies to move their funds around?
These are areas, it's a little bit like artificial intelligence, and universities don't know how to actually have policies and know how to deal with it yet, and they're having to learn. Well, same with central banks. They don't fully know how to handle these new currencies. Some of them you've actually, I think China has actually established its own artificial electronic currency as a means to try and manage the process. But trying to manage the ones that are out there, we know that when it comes to, if you're hacked, your computer's hacked, you're immediately then told you can re-access your software, but only so long as you pay us this amount of money, and it's going to have to be paid into one of those currencies out there. And but again, it's a war on technology. So you've got the hackers are trying to hack all the government websites and the banking systems, but at the same time, the governments are trying to work, and central banks are working with they're working with some of those software companies to be able also to hack all the banks, and because they're wanting to hack into other countries. You have these China trying to hack what's in America, or America trying to hack into. But of course, when you develop the software can be applied to, and you're much more experts in this room on software than I am. But one technology, once you've let it out of the bag, it can be used for all kinds of other purposes, and those are the risks and the hazards. And we're all in, and we know, even early on, when you had banks, like there was a big, long-standing British bank called Barings Bank, and it had a branch in Singapore, and their young guy was a young whiz kid, and he was performing very well and seemed to be making enormous profits. And the directors of the bank thought, oh, he's a good fellow, we'll give him a bonus, and he's a really good fellow. But the directors were older fellows, and they didn't know the technology, they didn't know actually what he was doing. So when he actually screwed up and then lost absolute fortune and effectively sent the bank bankrupt, the directors of that bank were going, oh, we didn't know. Well, they didn't know because you've got to be able to be up to speed. Your directors can't be lost in another world and another technology. So it's these are the challenges of governance, where government agencies are several steps behind the leading criminals, because, as we say, the drug trade, the arms trade, the trade in sanctioned oil, these are bigger than the economies of middle-sized economies. And so it's very crime, as they say, crime pays. So they're going to invest in technology and tackling it. So it does mean that the authorities have to be very much on the ball and ready to invest. We know who sometimes, the FBI want to go and investigate something. They often, when there's a hacker and he's arrested, he may be an amateur hacker just doing it for the love of it, to see if he can hack into the Pentagon website or whatever. So they immediately, the FBI want to go and recruit him and say, because we know that the thief turned policeman sometimes is the most effective. So
Some question here this side.
Yeah, and one here. So shall we take here, and then up in the back?
In the event that public person registered to gets blacklisted, what are some of the possible things that we as citizens of Papua New Guinea should expect, and how should we prepare for those things that get out about to happen when we become registered? That's the question.
That would